What I saw, I couldn't believe there was so much of it. It was scattered over such a vast area. So we proceeded to pick up as much of the debris as we could, load it in the wagon. We filled that up. It took us a good part of the day to do that because there's such small fragments that we had to do a lot of picking. We found a piece of metal about a 1.5 to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes. But the thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it, you couldn't dead it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and in our air travel. This was nothing like that. It could not be. It could not have been.
My father had been called out to investigate what I thought was an aircraft accident some distance from here on a ranch close by. And he came back much later one evening, about maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, with a car full of debris, like metallic debris. Mm-hmm. And he was very excited about it. He unloaded a good part of this debris into the house here, into the kitchen part. And he woke my mother and myself up to come look at this, because he had no idea what this was. Mm-hmm. Material that it consisted of was more foil-like, although it was a very strong, very tough material. Mm-hmm. Material that was not easily malleable, not like tin foil that you just bend back and forth. Parts of it looked like balsa wood type members, but metal like balsa wood. Mm-hmm. Very light and very strong. And it had a sort of metallic glint to it, mm-hmm. Like a dull aluminum surface. Mm-hmm. I guess the most mind-boggling or startling feature was along the inner surface of some of these members was like a writing. Oh. The writing itself was not English numerals or the Greek alphabet or anything of that nature. It looked more like an Egyptian hieroglyphic type writing. The lettering itself was, I recall, the color was a purplish violet hue, and it looked like it was embossed inside the inner surface of some of the metallic members, the structural frame itself. Oh. I think he came to the conclusion that this was probably not anything that was made here, at least on this planet. Oh.
I was not out at the ranch at the time, and I picked up an Albuquerque paper, and here's my dad's picture looking at me, and I thought, well, I wonder what he's done now. So I went on to read the article, and I told Shirley, I said, well, I guess I better go out to the ranch, because they said that the Air Force had asked him to stay in Roswell. Anyway, they swore dead to secrecy, and I went out to the ranch and stayed until he got back, and I asked him what he'd got into, and oh, he says, I found a bunch of trash. And so he went on to tell me it was a bunch of sticks, and twine string, he says. And he said on some of these sticks, why, there was, he says, Japanese or Chinese figures, you know. Mm-hmm. And of course he couldn't even start to show me what it was like, you know. Mm-hmm. And I kept asking him questions, and he said, well, he said, I told the Air Force I wouldn't tell anybody. He said, you're probably better off without knowing. He did show me where he had found this wreckage, mm-hmm. And so, and of course, riding horseback, you see lots of things, you know. So I'd go back through there, and naturally I was kind of looking. and I picked up a few scraps, and that the Army hadn't picked up. And I made them in. I'd bring them in my chap's pocket and put them in a cigar box down at the barn. But the little scraps, I want to call it wood, was kind of like balsa wood. Real light, kind of a neutral color. And pieces of string or something like monofilament fishing line. And then the foil, like tin foil or lead foil, but you couldn't crease it and make it stay. And I only had one little jagged piece of it. And you bend it over, make a crease, and it'd straighten right back out. And it wouldn't, I don't know, it had to hit with a terrific force because you couldn't cut that wood or the string or the foil. And it wouldn't burn. The wood was real pliable.
Oh.
And, but it wouldn't break. It was something, I don't know, felt like balsa wood, real light, you know. And of course that was kind of before the days of plastic.
Right.
So it could have been some type of plastic, I don't know. An odd shape, kind of a jagged piece, and the whole area wasn't as large as that ashtray. Maybe half that.
Yes.
But it was, well, like you just tear a piece of paper or something, you know. And,
But you couldn't do that. How
so
was
I say it must have hit with a terrific force to have even broken the frame parts or tore this foil, because I couldn't tear it. I didn't really get pliers or anything and try that hard, you know.
Except I didn't try to tear it myself. I just picked it up.
Like you said, I just tried with my fingers, and I didn't tear it.
I know my dad said he tried to tear it and tried to deform it with hammers, but impossible.
And how was the thickness of?
Well, it was pretty thin.
Like what?
Well, like aluminum foil that's used today to wrap frozen material.
Was it the same as?
About the same thing. Yeah.
How was the edge of the balsa-like material?
The edge. Well,
Was it?
of course,
cold?
the ends of the pieces I found were kind of jagged, but the edge of the piece lengthwise was smooth.
Oh, that's the same.
Yeah, to me, it resembled an I-beam, a small I-beam that was fractured on each end. And it was on the inner surface of that where the writing was located.
Oh, I see.
The longest piece I saw was about 18 inches in length.
I didn't find anything that large. Mine are, maybe 3 inches, probably the longest piece that I found.
Don't you have any question to Mr. Branson?
Well, it sounds like you and I saw the same thing.
Well,
I'm sure.
well, I'm sure it was.
He came by after this incident, and he had been humiliated and detained for several days, and he was a reliable, solid person, dependable, and he was, I think, anxious to square himself with his neighbors when he came by. I mean, to assure them that what he did was on the up and up. He came to the corral. Mac was living alone at this ranch where he was the manager. His wife lived in Alamogordo. And Mac would come and visit with the men in the family. He came into the house once in a while, not too often. And the time that he brought the sample of what he had picked up, he was at the corral. My daughter and 2 sons and husband were at the corral, and they saw it. My daughter says that it could be crumpled up and straightened right back out. He was telling my family about how badly the Army people had treated him down here. And it amounted to humiliation and detention when there wasn't any good reason. He had come in good faith. And they didn't accept it that way, or didn't appear to. He said they threw him in jail. He said if he ever found anything like that again, he would never show it to them. He would never bring it in. He had done so as what he thought was a good citizen, and he had been humiliated and mistreated. And he was very disturbed.
It seems to me like that he did bring a small piece of it up, but I expect it was hard to. I don't think you could have. The way he talked, you couldn't have tore off a little piece or anything. But the piece of wood-looking stuff was nearly as big as a pencil, and it was kind of I'd say now it looked more like plastic or so, hard plastic or something. Back then we didn't know what plastic was, but it was just looked like some kind of wood. I don't know just what. And then my brother that was in the Air Force at Roswell, that was with the crew that flew it out of Roswell, he said they couldn't see anything because they had it all, had it covered up with tarp. So
what was his name?
Robert Porter.
And he's still living in
Great Falls. Yes. But he was in Roswell at that time in the Air Force down there.
He was part of the crew that flew it in the some of the wreckage in the aircraft over to Fort Worth.
Yes. But he said they didn't know what they had flew out until they was coming back, and then they were told that it was a UFO.